Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tiara and I am your crafty agent. Agent meaning real estate agent. So today I'll be showing you guys how I created this epoxy pyramid with the picture inserted inside. This will be my second go around attempting to do this. The first one, as you can see here, it turned out kind of foggy. So I learned from my mistakes and I tried again. So I'm gonna take you guys step by step on what I did to make the pyramid right the second go round. So stay tuned, and everything that I used will be linked down below. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and let's get started. All right, so here is the pyramid mold I found on Amazon. This one is almost 6 inches. It's the largest one I could find. And I'm going to start out by pouring some epoxy in the tip because I want the top of my pyramid to be clear. And then you'll want to get like a skewer or a toothpick and poke around to the top of the tip so that there's no air bubbles. The very first pyramid I didn't poke around to pop any bubbles, and it had like an air bubble and a dent in the tip. So learn from my mistake. All right, so the next day after that dried, I'm going to go ahead and add my next layer. This time I added some pink glitter. And of course, you'll just pour that right on top. So I wanted to show you all how I created the heart insert that's going to go in the resin. It's going to be a double-sided picture. So if you open up Silhouette Studio and go to the left, you'll click the heart, the little shape icon, and choose a heart or whatever shape you want to use. I sized my heart about 2.5 to 3 inches. I don't remember, but I know I got my ruler and I measured inside the pyramid. So here I'm just going to fill in a color so that it's easier for you to see. So next you'll want to have your picture ready, and you'll just drag and drop it into your shape. When I did this, it fit perfectly, so I just went with it. And so what I'm going to do next is make an offset of this heart so that we have a border. So over on the right, you'll see the star icon, and then you'll see offset. And then you can play with the numbers up and down however big you want your border to be. And I'm doing it this way so that I can print the pink border with the image. Now you could just print the image and put it on like a gold foiled vinyl, so that can be your background. But I'm just going to print this, print and cut. So I'm duplicating the image, and then I'm going to flip one of them horizontally so that it's an exact mirror. And I do have my registration marks on. And I'm going to go ahead and print this using my inkjet printable vinyl from Amazon. I will have that linked below. And I always do presentation paper matte, and I always do the highest quality. So here is the final product. I did do a print bleed because I don't want any white or, misaligned cuts. So that's why the heart looks really big. So here's the final with the cutout image. Now I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. This came inside of one of my heat transfer vinyl packs that I got from Amazon, or a cardstock pack. It's just a thicker piece of paper. And I'm going to cut that same heart, the outline of the heart. And I had to cut it several times because it is thick and it's not going to cut perfectly. As you'll see here, when I pull it out of here, it's going to be really fuzzy and torn on the edges, and that's okay. Don't worry about it because we're going to put our printable vinyl on top of this. This is just a base to make it sturdy. So here I have my printable vinyl stickers that we just cut, and I'm going to do my best to align it like perfectly onto this heart. This will give it something to hold up to in the epoxy, because you don't want to just put the printable vinyl directly in the epoxy. So now I'm going to flip it and do the same thing on the back. And here is our insert, our heart insert. So next, I'm going to seal this picture in epoxy. So of course I can only do one side at a time. And I'm going to sit it on a medicine cup, and I'm just going to seal it using the epoxy method. Just put a nice even coat all the way around. And then I did spray mine with alcohol to pop any bubbles. And then I added just a little bit more epoxy and smoothed it around. I let that dry overnight, and here it is the next day. It is nice and coated. So next we're going to do the other side. Same process. Okay, so this next part of the video, I'll be showing you guys how I set up my heart to stay in the epoxy while it sets. All of these supplies came from Dollar Tree. I got the 2 large candles, the dowels, and these paper clips. And I'm setting them up with some jute. Or you could use any type of string you have. The jute is actually pretty messy, so I don't recommend it. And I'm just going to loop that through the paper clip. You see here, I just went straight through. And I'm going to tie it to secure it. And there may be an easier way to do this, but I'm not aware of it. So this is just what I came up with, and it worked. So yeah. So I double knotted it, and now the string is secured to the paper clip. So next I'm going to take my wooden dowel and I'm going to tie the string to that so that the paper clip hangs down. So this will allow me to clip my picture so that it will hang upside down into the epoxy until the epoxy dries. So here I am tying a knot so that the string can hang, and I'm kind of gauging like how long I need my string to be. And I adjust my knot accordingly. And then I found it easier if I put some electrical tape on the wooden dowels so that they stay in place instead of moving around. So here I'm just taping both sides securely to the candles. So here I'm just going to finalize my desired height for the picture, and you want to make sure that your picture is nice and straight and even. Get everything how you want it, make as many adjustments as you need, and then I cut off the extra jute. And then I found that it was even better if I electrical taped the jute ribbon to the dowel as well. It's less movement. So now the only thing I have to move to adjust is the 2 candles. So there is my little contraption. Yeah, if there's an easier way, let me know down in the comments. All right, so back to the pyramid. I'm going to go ahead and add another clear layer. And this is going to be the layer to actually secure our picture that we're going to insert. But before I add the picture, I'm going to add a little bit of this decorative filler that I got from Michael's. When it dries, I just like the way it looks. So I'm just going to pour that in there and spray it with alcohol. And then I'm going to set my picture up. So I'm going to bring out my little contraption. My epoxy is still wet. And I'm going to position my picture exactly where I want it so that when the epoxy dries, it's in place and I can remove the contraption. So you'll make as many adjustments as you need. And here it is the next day after the epoxy has dried. As you can see, I can remove my little candles and sticks, and the picture is not going anywhere. So next, I'm going to use this deep pour epoxy that I got from Hobby Lobby. This is different from your regular epoxy as it's 2 parts to 1 part. So 2 parts of part A to 1 part B. This was my first time using the amazing deep pour, and it did work out fine. The first time I made a pyramid, I used regular epoxy, and it left lines for each layer that I poured, and it was really foggy. So I went with this deep pour. So I'm going to pour. I initially underestimated how much epoxy I needed. So this first time I mixed 2 ounces of part A and 1 ounce of part B, and it was nowhere near enough to cover my picture. So in hindsight, I probably should have mixed the entire bottle the first go round to cover the entire picture. And you'll notice when you're mixing it that it's more liquidy than your normal epoxy. Totally fine. So I mixed it for 5 minutes, and as you'll see here, when I went to pour it, it only covered the bottom or the top of my picture. But that's okay. I just repeated the process until the entire picture was covered. And of course, I still sprayed with alcohol. So here it is the next day. My picture is secured, of course. I'm going to go ahead and finish up with the deep pour epoxy to cover my picture. And here's the second go round of deep pour epoxy. Still not enough. Don't forget to pop those bubbles with alcohol. Next day, I have another round of deep pour epoxy. So I definitely underestimated the amount of epoxy would be needed to cover the picture. I should have done bigger quantities from the get-go. So I'm going to pop any bubbles, and I think our picture is just about covered. It took 3 go rounds. All right, now since the picture is finally covered, we can go back to regular epoxy. And I'm going to go ahead and add some flowers. So I got these flowers from Hobby Lobby in the paper crafting section, and I'm just going to sit them on top of my wet epoxy, upside down. And I also sprinkled some chunky glitter on top of that wet epoxy. And this is the next day. I'm just going to add more epoxy just to finish everything off. And on these final layers, I'm adding colored glitter to cover up the flowers so that you can't see the bottom of them. I'm also going to add a white layer as well. And that's pretty much it. So once it dries, you're good to go. So here's the first one I did one more time. It is really foggy, kind of blurry. You can't see straight through the epoxy. That's using regular epoxy. So then here's the one we did with deep pour. Much more clarity. You can't see the lines throughout. You can see straight through it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thanks for watching.